Good morning, and you're watching another episode of Ryan Phelan's epic morning show in the morning. So, today is fantastic because we get to celebrate twice, well, maybe even more than twice. Because, first of all, it's Spouses Day. So, for those of us that have spouses, or maybe you know somebody that has a spouse, you can celebrate this day with them. So Spouses Day, number one, or you could get your spouse some flowers from Flower Aura by Natasha. Really great flower company. So especially for guys, we're coming up on February, keep that in mind. um, anyhow, so you got Spouses Day, and it's also Australia Day. That's about as far as I'm going to go with that accent. But it's Australia Day. And so if you have a spouse, if you have an Australian spouse, that's even better. That day is like twice as good for you. Or if you're Australian and your spouse is Australian, and yeah, and because it's Australian Day, that's like triply exciting for you. But other than that, um, very happy Australian Day to Russell Crowe, Nicole Kidman, um, Paul Hogan, kangaroos and koalas. Happy Australian Day. It's Australia Day because 1788, January 26th, was the arrival of the first fleet to Port Jackson in New South Wales. And that's where Arthur Phillip raised the British flag and got Australia. And I think I'm right on all of that. If you're Australian and I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me in the comments. And moving on, I am going to answer a question that I got after one of my videos. The question was from Hannibal. Hello, Hannibal. The question was, what do I think about pre-listing home inspections? So a pre-listing home inspection is where, rather than listing your home and then waiting for a buyer to make an offer and then wanting to do a home inspection, is you get the home inspection done in advance. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons to this, and it's still kind of, undecided whether it's good or not. So let's dissect it. Number one, a pre-listing home inspection is great because you get to discover everything that the buyer is going to discover, because most likely the buyer is going to be doing a home inspection. There are some super hot markets where people come in with an unconditional offer, and then you maybe kind of look at maybe not doing it, saving yourself some money, because you're going to have that many offers and maybe an unconditional one. Next is that by doing so, you're able to identify all the problems that the buyer's going to have in the home inspection and address them in advance. Because what happens is the buyer will do a home inspection, and when he finds all these little red line items, which usually aren't a whole lot of big deals, like it might be a small leak under the sink, might be that there needs to be a little more caulking around the countertop, might be that the attic needs a little more insulation. All these things, when a buyer looks at them, it's overwhelming and a little bit daunting. And what you can do is you can kind of nip it in the bud before it even gets to them and take care of all these items. And when the inspector comes, it's like the inspector's saying, man, this place is great, like to the buyer, which gives them comfort, which means that they're not trying to negotiate or over negotiate money off the price at the 11th hour. So that's the positives, right? Is kind of beating the buyer to the punch, which is a great negotiation strategy. Knowledge is power, and knowing what they're going to come across. Those that aren't in favor of a pre-listing home inspection have this argument, which I think there's some validity to, is where, say there is a problem in your house that's going to be a greater expense to remedy, which would leave it as maybe a material latent defect. So material latent defect is something that the seller knows about and it's hidden. It's not obvious to the eye or obvious at inspection, and is going to be a great expense remedy or potentially hazardous to someone's health. So you find this at your home inspection, and the argument is that maybe the buyer's inspector wasn't as good and he wouldn't have found it. But this is all hearsay and who knows. And most likely if one inspector is going to find it, the other inspector is going to find it. So if this is going to be a deal-killing thing or really put the buyer off, you could be looking at negotiating thousands of dollars off your property, even thousands of dollars more than what it would have cost to remedy. I've seen some things in homes where I thought it was going to be a great expense to fix, but by the time you get down to it and you get a quote, it's like, oh, okay, this isn't even half as bad as what I thought it was going to be. So if you can, again, beat the buyer to the punch on these things, why wouldn't you do that? Because you know that they're going to get their own home inspection anyway. Again, for the most part, there are some super hot markets where people are throwing in unconditional offers, or depending on the property, maybe it's a tear down home and the person buying it isn't concerned with a home inspection, right? So there are cases where it doesn't apply, but I think in order to give you an edge on negotiating, also to relieve some stress, right? Because when it comes to down to the home inspection time, you're like, oh my God, what are they going to find? If you already know that and you know that you've addressed it, you're golden, right? So that is my thoughts, Hannibal, on what on the advantages and disadvantages of pre-listing home inspections. I think overall a great idea, but something to take into consideration, both pros and cons. Other than that, if you have a question or if there's something you want to see in this epic morning show, go down to the comments, do the whole like, subscribe, but leave a comment and say, hey, Ryan, what about homes on this street? Or what about, what are some things I should look out for? If you have any questions about real estate, please put them in the comments. We'll get them answered for you. And until next time, good day. And give your spouse a hug or do something like that. All right. Have a good day and stay epic.